What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Savage Arm Wrestling. I bet some of you have been looking up the rankings for Japan now that the athletes are starting to travel around. Japan athletes are going out to the world, and people are coming to Japan and challenging athletes and claiming that they're facing the number one. But I'm going to give you a hint. You're not going to find any rankings for Japan.
Let's get savage.
Yes, you heard me correctly. Japan does not have a national ranking system for arm wrestling. It just doesn't exist. They do have some rankings, but they're not national to the whole country. They're specified to the specific organizations. And to really give you a reason why, I kind of got to talk about what's going on in Japan. So Japan has two big organizations, JAWA, JAWA, and AJAF. The Japanese Arm Wrestling Association and the All Japan Arm Wrestling Federation. I believe that JAWA is IFA, and I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe AJAF is WAF. And because of this, Japan's split. These are the two major overarching organizations in Japan, and they are not together. They are quite separate. And then comes in the bureaucracy of the sport. I've asked some athletes around here. Athletes is cutting it kind of small. I've asked some organizers and athletes and those who have positions. I can't really give any names. They've requested to be anonymous in this, but they said that because of this, there is no true national ranking system because of the bureaucracy of this. They don't want to offend the other organization. The athletes really don't face each other. And because of that, we don't have a real ranking system in Japan. Now, we do have those athletes that we do recognize as being number one. And right now, for men, that's Shishido Toshiyuki. He is recognized as the number one arm wrestler that is active in Japan. I have to say active because there are a couple, one retired athlete who I believe right now could come out of retirement and still give Toshiyuki a run for his money. And in the females, that is Ayane, number one female arm wrestler in Japan. And anybody else claiming to be number one, there's no proof. They could be number one that year for JAWA or AJAF, because even in those organizations, they only track their national tournament the year prior. There is no overarching who is currently standing as number one overall. Now, the challenges and complications that come with this is that there's no real way to promote an athlete by claiming his position and overarching title in Japan, being the number 185 kilogram, because it's going to cause a controversy between JAWA and AJF. I've seen this, and there's athletes around that claim that, oh, I pulled the number one of Japan, and no, honestly, you really didn't. You probably pulled that year's number one of their weight class. I'm not saying he's a weak arm wrestler. He's probably very strong, but there's also a chance that you didn't pull the real number one of that weight class. And also with these two organizations having a big part of most tournaments in Japan, and them both being tested organizations, it's very difficult to get those big international arm wrestling scenes that are not tested a home here. For example, it is very challenging to find a tournament for the Arm Classic in Japan. It would take an independent organizer to build something to make that take place. I can tell you that there's somebody trying to work it. there's whispers back and forth. They're trying to get sponsors and stuff, but they can only go so far when they're not getting a lot of help from said organizations. But in the organization's defenses, they really can't. They can't really support it, because then they could lose their connection with the organization that they're rooted from, WAF and IFA. So, circling back to the beginning, Japan doesn't have a national ranking system, and for a national ranking system to exist, there has to be a non-biased group that makes it outside of JAWA and AJAF, and that really doesn't exist, unfortunately. I know this is not the only country that has the bureaucracy of the sport kind of limiting the capabilities of having a true ranking system, but I do think that it hurts the sport in a way, because we all want to know who's number one in any country, and that honor is huge. I respect the Japanese culture and the way that they don't want to create a conflict between the two organizations, and because they don't really compete against each other, so the decisions might look biased. But I still think that Japan needs something there. Somebody needs to step up outside of these two organizations and build something. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you guys think that Japan not having a true national ranking system, it doesn't really matter? Do you think that they could just have two separate ranking systems, and JAWA and AJF? But I mean like true ranking systems, not where they're just going off of their who won it that year. And do you know of any other locations that are like this, where it's kind of the bureaucracy of the sport is kind of preventing it from truly shining and showing off its athletes the best that it can? You guys let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, stay savage.